going to have Emily here later on, and we can check in with her when she's on for an update on that. Certainly know the pain you guys feel down there. Not that when we had looked at the trend, it looked like it was trending positively from what it did some years back.
Yeah.
But certainly, we just recently had mass chaos. So.
Yeah. And Emily has been great. She doled out her cell phone number to me, so I get information from her when I need to. But it's it's about, we're just kind of getting tired of it.
Interesting.
All right, so that's all I have.
Can I give a quick update? We are in the middle of an asset management plan that helps us identify our assets. And I will tell you, even though exchange rate is an issue, there are issues of higher importance in the town right now as far as water is concerned.
Sure.
And it is on the list. It is on the priority list. But we probably have at least $20 million worth of priority water main projects to do right now. So I don't know when we're going to get to it, but it is on the list and we are aware of it, and we're trying to address things as quickly as we can.
All right, great. Good to know.
I would just tell you right now, our highest priority is probably redundancy. So things that will give us redundancy in the system. Better storage on Chipman Hill, better flow at our pumps, our well pumps, but it is on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure, appreciate it.
Next, Chief Shaw. Sir.
Good evening. I'm here at the same time every year requesting fire gear. This is our annual allotment to keep us in compliance with the NFPA standard in regards to turnout gear. We're looking to purchase 5 sets of turnout gear for the amount of $15,820.
I'll move to approve the purchase order presented by the fire department to acquire 5 turnout gear sets from Bergeron Protective Clothing for $15,820.50.
Second.
Second, any other questions or comments?
Chief, I'd love, this could be consent agenda. We're always going to approve the required turnout gear to meet these standards. Can you tell us anything that's going on that we should know about since you're here?
Yes, we're currently working on the replacement of the utility truck, and that committee has had a tough time. We've reached out to 9 different vendors, narrowed it to 7. Got it down to 4 now, and the prices are just unbelievable. The preliminary prices that came back were out of touch. I sent the committee back to the rebuild schedule and started removing non-essential items off this truck to try to lower that price back down. We're at that point now where we're going to put it back out to those 3 contractors and see if we can hammer the price back down again and get it a little more reasonable. It's evident to me and to the committee that the current 2 cents on the tax rate is not sufficient to maintain the level of equipment that we currently have and enjoy.
And because of just general inflation.
The general
all of the
inflation rate is
specialized-
unbelievable in fire equipment.
Yeah.
Brian, you probably know, in agriculture equipment, it's just been astronomical. We're trying, I've set the goal for this committee to have their facts and figures ready to go to the infrastructure committee by October, so we can come to the select board by December to purchase before year end, because they're projecting a 13.5% increase. And the L8 motor that historically we have bought will no longer be available, and its replacement is $60,000 more than the current motor. So we're talking about $100,000 increase. If we can get our ducks in a row and get this done this year, we can save $100,000. And that's really what we're pushing for. Yeah, it's craziness. Yeah.
Chief, are they going to build out every order they get with the old power plant?
So two of the 3 distributors we narrowed down to went out and purchased L8s in advance.
Okay.
they've warehoused them, and they're going to sell that remaining stock. And then because the manufacturers haven't even designed the cowling to fit the new engine and to meet the EPA standards yet.
You said they're going to discontinue?
They're going to discontinue. That doesn't meet the EPA clean air requirements anymore.
What's the replacement?
So they're going to replacement engine is an L8E, I think, and that replaces this particular motor.
Probably cost a lot more.
Yeah, $60,000 more. Doesn't
Does-
seem like enough.
Well, that,
Tier 4, that's going to Tier 5, or Tier 3 going to Tier 4?
I think it's tier 3 going to tier 4. Yep, absolutely.
will that make it difficult to service that motor in the
No, it will
future?
not. No, it will not make it difficult service.
So they'll still do parts and
Yeah,
service and everything?
absolutely. Yes, that is the lion's share of their motor division is that style motor for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, it's in everything. For sure. But again, we'll have to have another discussion another time of maybe if we could adjust that fund upward. I know the pressure on the tax rate is significant, but I'm currently working on a 15-year spreadsheet so we can plug those numbers in and see what they look like and where the fund is short and how we can move things around. But we'll be back another time. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to get a PO for some grant money we received last year, $33,000 for airbags, and stabilizers, and we're ready to execute that grant now. We've just met with the last provider 2 weeks ago and made our decision, and we'll be reaching out to you guys in probably the next select board meeting if you have time.
I won't chastise the assistant chair for going outside. We're working on a motion here, and took it way away from the motion, so.
Oh,
Okay,
chastise.
Any other questions? I think the time to ask that would have been after we voted on it. Does everybody remember we have a motion on the floor? So, with the motion so made and no other comments to the motion, all in favor of approving the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I didn't want to
Those
run out of
opposed,
here.
aye. The chief will
Thank you.
never run out of anything. He's running into the park.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, we have Karina Toy with us online to meet you.
Hi, Karina, can you hear us? She got camera, she got
It's
camera.
coming. There she is.
There she
All
is.
right.
I wasn't quite sure if I'd be able to see everyone. Hi, everyone. My name
Hi.
is Karina Toy. I went to Middlebury College from 2013 to 17. Moved to New York City, but with long relationship with undergrad college, also graduate, and one of the things.
You're a little bit muted.
Yeah.
We can't hear you.
We're having a hard time hearing you.
I don't know if you can do anything.
Okay. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I just wanted an introduction. Will it work or let me know?
I can hear her better. I can hear you better
If you
now.
can speak up a little bit, that'll be great.
Okay, I'll try and shout, if that works. You guys just tell me if it's okay. Hi everyone, my name is Karina Toy. I graduated from Middlebury College in 2017. After that, I moved to New York City, but I was in a relationship with another guy at school, so long distance for 4 years. And then during COVID in 2020, we actually moved back downtown full time. We've lived in the town for about 4 years now. Both work from home jobs, absolutely love living in the college, not in college, in Middlebury. And recently we've seen some changes in my work situation. I've had a lot more free time, which is great. Unfortunately, I couldn't be with you all today. I have things to talk about, but hopefully I'll be able to come in the next meeting. And yeah, as part of that, we're just going to is that okay?
Great, thank you.
Okay, perfect.
The other speaker came on.
Any questions of Karina?
So, Karina, are you familiar with the regional planning process in Vermont and what the board does?
A little bit. I read open information online, and then I met with a few weeks ago and asked some question, but to be honest beyond that, not as much.
Sounds good. I know that there's some efforts looking at regionalization of other municipal services. And this is one of the ones that's already provided on a regional basis. And there's, I think, good opportunities to provide more assistance to the municipal town.
So what are we, she has interest in 3, what are the, I wasn't clear what the openings were and what we're appointing her to.
She has asked, her number 1 pick was for regional planning.
Okay, and we have an opening on that?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I would move that we appoint Katrina Toy to one-year term on the Addison County Regional Planning Commission.
I'll second.
Seconded. Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you for being willing to serve.
Mm.
Another young,
Thank you all.
another young resident serving.
Yeehaw, yay. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Karina.
you.
Good night. Okay, next is, I believe, Kate online.
Mm-mm.
I think
She's here.
Oh, there you are. You're hiding behind.
I'm in the bag.
You were like directly behind Ross.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
All right. Just thank you for having me. And just wanted a little informal chat before I sent out the request for this year. I do have some preliminary figures if you want to take a look at them. But just basically wanted to let you know our ask is going to be the same. We won't be increasing it this year. The budget we adopted was based off of leaving our per capita charge at $13 for all the towns we serve. Basically wanted a chance to say a quick hi and share that with you. This obviously isn't what I'd like for inclusion in the town report because we don't have our article written up yet.
You had a much better year then?
The call volume's been a bit higher. We did raise our rates for billing. So that's shown an increase in our revenues from the insurance companies, at least the commercial payers. Medicaid has allowed us to bill for non-transports. And in July of 2023, they offered $106 towards non-transports, which they've just increased to $247, which is great when you think about it, because I did some quick figures on that for to put it in perspective, almost half of the calls in Middlebury are non-transports. So it's close to 700 of the calls we respond to in the town of Middlebury result in nobody going to the hospital for a variety of reasons.
Right. Before you weren't getting paid for it.
Correct. You have to treat. It isn't, there has to be some treatment involved resulting in the electronic patient care report in order for it to fall under the guidance to be able to bill for it. Every little bit counts.
I know that the consultants that the Green Mountain Care Board brought in to look at the full array of medical services in Vermont highlighted emergency transport as one of their areas of concern or potential change in the future. Are you familiar with this report?
I am, and actually I've requested a meeting with the Green Mountain Care Board, and we're trying to put one together. A lot of the trials and tribulations that the hospital was talking about, Porter specifically, even though they were one of the very few that were
The only, I think,
yeah,
in the green, yeah.
all of the problems that they're facing are very similar to what emergency services are. But unfortunately, I felt like they weren't well versed in what EMS capability is. You know, as a hospital, they're looking to get patients to definitive care. Every EMS service, their primary function is to provide 911 coverage to the communities they serve first, and then only some of them are doing transports on top of that. We're one of them. But there is a lot of moving of patients between the UVM health networks just to open up beds. There's, patients that are moving step down care, right? They're going from UVM back to Porter so they can open up a bed for a higher acuity patient. So we're seeing a lot more requests for transfers.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I haven't read their whole report. I just saw the presentation here, and it didn't really get into the recommendations in that area.
Yeah, I think they're on their end. They want to be able to move their patients out as quick as they can.
Sure.
But even something as simple when you think about it in the town of Middlebury. For public transportation, if it's somebody that needs to get back home, but they either don't have a ride or need just a little assistance, there's no taxi.
Right.
So they'll actually call over and say, hey, can you get this patient home, which isn't necessarily what the emergency medical services are intended for. But
Right.
If nobody moves the patient out of the ER, then they're taking up a bed.
The travel transit, they don't do that transportation. TVT.
They do some, but
A lot of it's scheduled in advance.
and I'm not sure what time they stop running, but certainly
But they do on call also if you call them.
How many total calls for all of the towns did you do this last year?
just over 3,500. 35.
Well, that's the number of people served, was the total for all?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should put in on that one how many citizens there are, because we're ready for anybody who calls, or if I should put in the total calls, but that does include the transfers.
I think that's perfect.
Any other questions? I do appreciate this early contact, Kate. It gives us something to think about. If we have questions, we can talk about it before we get
Closer to the time, yes, absolutely.
That's great.
Discussion last year, sometimes you fall through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got a copy, Kathleen, you got.
Welcome, Dan.
So I think Emily must be online with us.
I think so. Let me give this a shot. By process of elimination, I figured this was her.
Change your name.
I like that. Is it?
Emily, you are unmuted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good evening, Scott.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't steal my husband's computer, and I'm not as efficient on it.
Well, you were quick to figure it out. So you have a few things on your list.
Few things, yeah, so just a quick update for South Street. We have pretty much completed efforts on South Street itself and have jumped over to Benedict Lane and have pretty much completed Shipman Park North also. Still doing services there, but the main line is in. And we were able to complete the night work last week without a hitch, which was an enormous relief. So got 3 new valves in out on Route 30 in front of the funeral home. So most of the major congestion work is over. Paving, I believe, is still scheduled for next week. It's a little weather dependent, but they were proposing September 5th or 6th, depending on weather. And they did clean up and pave a lot of the crossings on South Street, which I'm sure that ambulances are already appreciating because they were getting pretty bad. And so those are a lot, the ride is definitely improved already. And then they'll circle back and just do stabilization efforts on South Street and then again over in Benedict Lane as they move out of there. So I think we're still looking at end of September, but I feel like the end is finally in sight to some degree, which is promising.
Excellent.
Yeah. Is Carlton still there?
He is not.
He's not, but I think if you could give us an update on that and maybe.
Yeah, I would say, so I was in an asset management training all day today down in Rutland, and we were looking at the risk factors for different components of our system. And Exchange Street does have a really high risk factor given the probability for failure and the consequence for failure. When you multiply those two out, it does pose a significant risk to our system. I think what we do need to look at is creating redundancy, like Heather was saying. The major issue there is that when we have a break, we're shutting down that entire spur because as well valving and there's no other loop to connect with. So my priority would be to start, and we do have the funding built into this year's budget, is to start looking into redundancy for that system. And if we could get that in place and then we could go back and make improvements on that Exchange Street line, we might be able to get creative with our improvements. So it wouldn't be as invasive. I don't know, we would have to look at the condition of that pipe. It might just be a complete replacement in sections. But there are areas, if there are significant portions that don't have services, it might be an area that we can line instead of excavating and replacing. So I think if we can build redundancy in, that would be first and foremost, and then come back and be creative about how to deal with what we have out there. Any questions on that?
Well, down that Pinelli Drive direction, is that just one pipe that goes down there?
Yeah.
So building redundancy, is it just so that you're feeding it from another direction? Because a lot of the breaks aren't down Pinelli Drive, right?
No, they're
Yeah,
back.
the drive does not have as many breaks on it. I have a few maps on that section. It's mostly on Exchange Street itself.
Right.
So if we could build redundancy tying into the upper portion of Exchange Street, that way we can backfeed it. And that way, shut it off where you need to make the repair, but you have an alternate area to provide flow.
Okay.
So yeah, when that break sort of shuts down, everyone beyond
that.
loses water. Yeah, which is
Yeah.
which is the biggest problem with the breaks in that area.
And do you think the point of,
What's that?
excuse me, do you think the point where redundancy needs to be delivered is Manelli Road as opposed to the other end of the same water line out by Bridge School? Or
I think we need to tie in at Bridge School. And then if we can figure out a way to loop Manelli in, ideally we would be able to do that also, but the majority of the breaks are on Exchange Street, and so we need to be providing redundancy to Exchange Street, in my opinion.
Okay, we've got a couple things we'll have actions on for you here.
really any process user
Johnson Well,
that end?
4, yeah, so this is sort of a continuation of work that we had approved. I forget when I feel like it was in June that we got it approved to clean the screens on Johnson Well 4 and also replace the VFD, and I feel like there's one more component of it. And in doing so, they pulled the pump and realized that it really needed to be replaced. And looking at our asset management plan, the engineer had listed it as a 2 to 5 year lifespan left. So it was pretty much on the end of its life. according to the asset management plan also, since it's already pulled and it's recommended to replace it at this time, and now that the screens are clean, it makes sense to replace it, get it back up to full potential, which would be 800 gallons per minute, and that had been operating more at like 450. And it would really relieve some of the burden off of pump 2, the Palmer well. So we received a quote from Barry Miller's well pump service for $44,720, and that would be to replace and install the new pump.
I'll move to approve the proposal from Barry Miller's Well and Pump Service to further repair and rehabilitate the Johnson Well 4 for $44,720.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments on the motion? It was back in April that we had approved that cleaning that.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That was down to 50%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of wear.
Yeah, it was significant, and hopefully it will help reduce the cavitation that we are experiencing in that pump.
The screen was plugged.
Wear
that-
wasn't getting the
yeah.
water.
Well, it was, so it was cavitating because the screen was plugged. It was sucking air and not sucking water, but yeah. Who was the water chief that was, I'm gonna draw. a
John
blank.
Trombley.
John Trombley. He was here at infrastructure, last week.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was great. He described how they come in and do the scrubbing process, and so, anyway. Hopefully we'll be back to full production on that well.
It would be good.
How about Otter Creek Engineering proposal for Seminary Street?
Yeah, so we've been working with Otter Creek Engineering to determine the allocation for, related to the Stonecrop housing development proposal. And Summit Properties has changed their allocation requests a few times, so we've had to go back and forth. But essentially, there's enough capacity in the pump station for the very initial phase, but beyond that, in any rain events, we'd be exceeding demand on that pump station. And due to infiltration on that sewer line that runs to the west of the development. So the proposal is to line that section of pipe. It would be just over 1,000 feet. And that would help cut down on any infiltration, because without that, there's plenty of capacity in the pump station. So it'd be helping with our wet flows, with our CSO discharge flows, and then also it would be helping with this development to be able to move forward. So working with Kathleen, we designated ARPA funding to the project. This would get the ball rolling and get the project under contract by the December deadline.
So Emily, this is just engineering. Any idea what we're talking about, of the construction costs and how that would be funded?
Well, when we priced it out, it was around $100,000. So inflation might have driven that up a little bit, but in that ballpark.
And is this at all addressed by the sewer line improvement payment and the development agreement with, you're supposed to pay $75,000 for some
So
work?
that was based on half.
Half.
It would cost you.
Okay, thank you.
I move that the select board approve the engineering agreement with Otter Creek Engineering to provide design engineering, bid phase, and construction engineering for $52,500.
Second, any other questions on that?
I'll make a friendly amendment that motion is for the Seminary Street extension sewer line slip lining. It didn't say it specifically in the motion, and I would just ask that we add that in.
I accept it.
All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Yes.
No.
He's
Yes,
in
he
the
is. He just has his camera off, I think. Yes, he's with us. Oh, maybe he needs to. Dan, I'm going to promote you.
It's that easy.
There he goes. He's going to be.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yep.
Where are you? Promotions were never that easy.
Okay.
I think in the military, where are they?
Okay, I can't get video, I can't give you my video, so, I will try to stay on and I'll listen and I'll verbally.
Perfect.
So did you hear and do you want to vote?
I didn't hear what you were voting on, I'm just now getting good video and audio.
We're voting on 8B, the Otter Creek Engineering Proposal for Seminary Street Extension Sewer Line Improvement.
I vote
$50,500.
aye. Yep, vote aye.
Okay. Emily, do we have anything else that you wanted to weigh in on this evening?
That's it for me.
I have a quick question, Emily. Somebody from Halliday Road, they reached out to me. They were wondering if, along with the culvert work, is there paving involved this year?
So we received a class 2 paving grant, that we will utilize next year, reclaiming Halliday Road, and then Halliday Road should be buttoned up for a while, it will be in good shape.
Okay, so is there paving this year or no for that?
Next year.
Yeah, we're only spot paving over the culvert and where the pump station work
Okay.
happens, and then next year we'll come in and do the more northern and the more southern sections reclaiming them.
Okay. Thank you.
We have a $200,000 class 2 paving grant for that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Emily. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, is there anybody going to join us from the business community?
I did not hear from anyone that was going to join us, but I
Okay.
did.
We have
Okay, go ahead.
a necessity to at least open and provide opportunity for somebody to comment. We have a public hearing for hear comments and questions from the public regarding the proposed amendment to the Town of Middlebury's ordinance for the regulation of downtown improvement district. Amendment would extend the levy period of the district by 7 years to June 30th, 2031. Ours ended June 30th, 2024. This ordinance establishes a special assessment district for the downtown improvements and provides additional taxing authority to the Selectboard. Revenues of the district will be designated funds utilized to finance and or leverage financing from other sources for public improvements in the district. So, the board is conducting this public hearing to take questions and comments from the Middlebury community regarding the proposed change to the downtown improvement district. And I will go ahead and open the hearing. If anybody is on Zoom that would like to comment on it, please raise your hand. Anybody in the audience here would like to comment on it?
Before Laura continues, I would just like to note that Beth Dow sent out 98 notices to 98 property owners in the district, received responses from 23 property owners agreeing to the extension of the district, and we are in need of a 2/3 to go forward. So we need 65 in order to go forward with the extension of the district.
Did we receive any negative from those?
No.
So we've only heard from
Yep.
people in the.
So we have to-
23 out of 90.
And those were sent out at the end of July, and
Great.
so I think with some additional work we can get there. This is usually the case that
That's a piece
Takes
of,
some
piece
effort.
of mail that not everyone always jumps on.
Yeah. It has done a lot of good, sidewalks, the historic streetlight fixtures, some benches.
Yeah, they matched a federal grant for the little wayfinding placards we have and with the little historic kiosks we have around town.
We established it in 1996, and it has mostly been used to as local match money, but we did the parking study in 2012 with it and other things. But, there's some vacancies on the DITC board that didn't offer to be reappointed or in our April regular period of appointments. So I don't know that the new downtown group is that connected with the system that we used to have with the Agency of Commerce and Community Affairs and their downtown program. And, but I don't think there's anything controversial about level funding. It's just I don't think people are doesn't have the same constituency of support from the people who were staff with the Downtown Business Association or Middlebury Business Association that it had in the past. So,
Laura.
So Laura Sermily, and I've attended a lot of the DIDC meetings over the years, and I support its work. I know it's a lot of work on the part of the town to manage it, so I've listened to Beth, talk about that, and I guess it's really up to us to decide whether it's worth it, to continue. And I would say that the letters from the property owners are the most telling thing, and I would be guided by that. And if you do proceed with the commission, it has the opportunity to continue to do some really good and important work. And I'd like to continue to follow its work. I haven't nominated myself, to be on the DIDC, but I would be willing to do that if you need to fill a vacancy. So I'll just share that tonight. And I want it to be balanced. I don't know what the composition of the DIDC is best to be, and I'm happy to be a recruiter. I don't have to be on it. I'm going to attend the meeting anyway. So if you guide me in who else you're looking for, to fill out that commission, I'll help you, recruit for that.
I was just wondering if the trash receptacles downtown were covered by this tax assessment, and if so, what happened to the ones that used to be like in the park and in front of the post office?
We recover the servicing of the trash receptacles in the general fund budget, the weekly emptying. And I'll ask Bill Kernan what happened with the receptacles in front of the post office and where you said?
I think there was one in the park too that I haven't seen.
Which park?
The green.
Okay.
There was definitely one there. It's not there anymore.
They've been swapped. The more decorative ones are now it's the types you see in front of the house.
Oh, okay.
So just relatedly, I think that litter management is a good, okay. All right, I'm just saying, it's something, well, the DIDC does look at that, because it helps present the town positively, that's all.
Okay. I've not seen anyone else. No further comments regarding the downtown food district amendment. I'm going to call the public hearing closed. Without a vote from DIDC, can we still vote to support them if the members vote for it?
I think you should wait till we get
Table
the
it.
required signatures and report back. So maybe Laura will help us with that too, and we'll reach out to Catherine and Kelly from BMP and see if we can get those few remaining signatures.
Part of that energy. Get it done. Okay.
So do we wait to set the tax rate then as well?
Well, that
You
could-
are authorized to set the tax rate through fiscal year 2025, and this is a proposed level fund tax rate. And you do have some commitments outstanding to the Better Middlebury Partnership that the DIDC has to meet.
I would move the select board set the downtown improvement district tax rate for FY25 at 5.13 cents per $100 of property value.
Second?
Second, any comments on the motion? This is level funded, so all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Anybody against? Okay, next is, Kathleen, an update on Stonecrop housing.
We also have Zeke with us. Attempting to promote him to panelist.
Hello, everybody.
Obviously.
Is he?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Aw.
Great. I have a couple of grandmas hanging around here. I'd be down with you, but from our previous engagement, so, you're welcome. We'll go through it.
Okay, so although the town attorney's review isn't complete, you have a draft, the most recent draft of the development agreement in your packet. And Zeke is eager to move forward with financing details and has asked if the board would consider a motion to approve three financial provisions of the agreement so that he can move forward.
And I'll just make a comment that we've talked about the financial provisions on several occasions and never pushed back on or felt that they weren't workable for us. And this being our number one priority, getting this housing going. As a developer, I'm sure it's like any other business where you have to lock in your financing and everything far enough out, and they need a complete pro forma. So I know I talked to Zeke, and he needs to be able to tell the team that is pro forma is accurate, that these are financial investments are not going to change. So that's very critical for them at this point in the game. Is that he knows what his financial investments are going to be so that they can lock in the financing.
So those are, as I understand it, the Valley View sidewalk payment of $63,000 for a sidewalk that will get built by the town, if not through some other way, by September 1st, 2026. I mean, it's just the start of the school year, but the DRB minutes are pretty clear. They have a date. Anyway, the sewer line improvement payment of $75,000, and what was the other one? Six.
The escrow agreement.
The escrow agreement, right? Which we talked about at length at a prior meeting. We're still on that. So
I think we've talked about these three at length. If everybody's good with it, we can just at least lock these three pieces down while the attorney reviews the actual wording and some of the other technicalities.
there's plenty to do there. Well, I would move that the select board approve the overall substance of the proposed development agreement, including the terms articulated in sections 3, 4, and 6, which I just spoke about, while the town attorney completes the review of the final version of the agreement. And the select board's intent is to approve the development agreement at the next scheduled meeting.
Second.
Second, so comments on the motion? Hearing no comments on the motion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed?
Dan says aye.
We got it. Okay.
Well, thank you all. I just want to, I appreciate that commitment to it. We are deep into our underwriting mindset and we'll work to push bench on any comments to get this closed out in 2 weeks. But Brad, the only comment I would make is that section 3 of the value payment, I came in here, or sorry, on the sewer lining. I came in while Emily was giving that update, which was great to hear. Is to pay half of the cost. So if it's that $100,000, we'd be doing $50,000 up to a cap of $75,000. So if it costs $150, we'll still be splitting it up to that point. That's just so the public record matches the text of this development agreement. Bring that out.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate all your commitment to this. We're so close.
You have Spider-Man behind you.
Yeah.
Got kindergarten yesterday. We're all out.
Oh my gosh. It's awesome.
That's so great.
Yeah, well, thanks for bearing with me.
Yeah.
Very good, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thank you all.
Looks like Dana is with us on Zoom.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Dana.
Hi, Dana.
Good to see you.
Same.
So I'm gonna ask for permission to submit a grant application, and then Chris Huston's gonna talk to you guys about geothermal well drilling. So just to remind everyone, our goal was to raise $2 million for the renovation project through grant funding. We're hoping that the bulk of that comes from the Department of Libraries. We applied for $1.5 million from them. I did confirm with them this morning that they're on track to make that announcement within the next week or two, so hopefully we'll have an answer on that soon. In the meantime, I'd like to submit a grant application for the Northern Border Regional Planning Commission for their Catalyst grant. I'd like to apply for $500,000. I think that's the most that you can apply for in our category. It requires a matching amount. And the grant application was included in the packet. So happy to answer any questions about that.
I think it's an excellent grant application. Well written.
Thank you. Well, I should clarify, it is the pre-application. So we would submit this and then we would be invited to submit the formal application. But
So because we've already committed substantial dollars, I mean, that would count as towards the match, I assume.
yeah, absolutely. The matches, yes,
That's not an issue.
that's not an issue. The issue is just whether or not we'll be invited to apply. And I know the town was awarded a grant from NBRC in the spring, I think. So that might work against us, I don't know. This is a separate round of funding, so hopefully that won't have any bearing.
I'll move to approve the letter of intent for the Ilsley Public Library to submit an application seeking funding from the Northern Borders Regional Commission for $500,000.
Second.
Seconded, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? All right, Dana, we will look for some good news coming out of Northern Borders Regional Commission for us.
And also the,
Fingers crossed.
Also the-
And definitely next week or whenever you hear it soon from the state library. And I'll see you Friday.
Yeah, I will let you all know the second I hear anything. I'm on the edge of my seat and have been for months.
I bet. So Chris is with us here. We'll let Chris come up to the chair here.
Good evening, everyone.
evening.
Good evening, Dana.
You're presenting on geothermal well drilling.
That's right, Brian. Yeah, the project has gotten off to that point. Things are really moving quickly. We have our design development drawings that are being prepared currently, which we'll be receiving roughly the end of next week, which will define further detail of the project. The reason why we're asking for authorization to proceed with geothermal test drilling at this point is that information is critical to inform the actual mechanical design, the sizing of the exact equipment. So we've done our preliminary mechanical design based on the geothermal system. We now need to verify through you may have seen the map that was provided in your packet. We've identified 6 different locations, 4 of which we're expecting to only use 4 wells, 2 for production and 2 for rejection, or as you see on the drawings. So this is an open loop geothermal system versus a closed loop. So we draw with the 2 source wells and the production wells, and then through the rejection wells or the injection wells, we push this water back into the ground.
And so in the winter, you're returning cooled water, and in the summer, you're returning heated water? Is that effectively how it works?
Effectively, yeah.
What's the change in temperature?
Brian, it's not much, no. And so we've got these 4 lines which will be coming into the mechanical system, at which time there's a plate heat exchanger which will convert that temperature into energy effectively. That is brought into the building, circulated to a number of zones, number of heat pumps, and then that, depending on whether that zone is asking for heating or cooling, will then take that energy off of that loop and push out warm or cool air into each of the individual spaces. So it's a ducted air system, ultimately, not unlike this building.
So following up on Andy's question about the returning chilled water in the winter, the note here says that 2 of the injection wells on these red lines are 6 inches underground. Why would you ever want to have a water line in Vermont winter running chilled water 6 inches underground? Isn't there freezing could happen?
No, Fred, we won't encounter any freezing because the water is in a continuous
Unless you ever have to shut it off.
flowing state. Yeah, and actually, so the other detail that's shown on this drawing, I think it's sort of in the lower left-hand corner, there are 2 details. And what we wanted to point out, I think specifically for you all this evening, is understanding the location of these potential 6 wells. We're trying to design this with the most flexibility for a future unknown development. And it's the same or very similar detail, Fred, that they used in South Burlington at their library and town office building or city building, whereby there is essentially a big manhole that pushes the top of the well casing down several feet below the ground so that you can get access to that. It has traffic loading, so you can drive vehicles over these wellheads, if you will. So it's really providing maximum flexibility for whatever the future holds.
I was curious about the placement of them, and I went back to the select board's packet of June 11th, where there were these plans. One of them was Steve Ravel's Lincoln Applied Geology, with these fracture things. And there,
Yes.
he had 5 wells, and the 6th one you have here is out further.
Mm-hmm.
And right near it, to the left of it, is a sanitary sewer manhole.
Mm-hmm.
Sewer that goes along Bakery Lane. It
Right.
doesn't show the main, but that well is quite close to that.
Yeah. Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
Usually engineers put all these lines on it. But they didn't.
Yeah. Fred, I would point out, as you're bringing up the Steve Revelle, so as he is our hydrogeologist, these are quite literally X marks the spot. So you'll see that those intersections,
How does he know where fracture lines are in the rock?
by studying apparently the maps that he has to where those are derived from, I'm not sure. We have I will say that we have working with the same team that we did at a recent project in South Burlington, the OnLogic project, same driller and so on. So it's a very, very experienced team. So we're excited about that.
So in talking about the potential for future development, I just briefly say that as a liaison for the Energy Committee, they're very interested in thermal energy networks. And this was one area of town that they found, and they're eager to look on and see what can be done with this. If that can be done there, they've been in touch apparently maybe through you, for participating in your meeting on September 12th to see how this goes. And I was a little skeptical of how, because I'm imagining this is being sized and just for the library's need.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Building a lot more, drilling more holes for something unknown.
Yeah.
But if we had a high yield that could accommodate that, and that could operate to bring in more of the revenue, that would be wonderful.
Right.
But it seems highly, skeptical of whether that would, happen.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say, Fred, is that being that we're using the best information we have to locate these wells, and we've prioritized them based on the knowledge we're given. But this initial test well is going to tell us yield. It's going to tell us water quality, which is really important. Is there turbidity in the water, which is going to, make the pumps work harder? Is the actual water itself have minerals, or is it hard, which will also create an issue for the actual equipment that we need to address. So that would mean some more equipment to treat the water in the mechanical space. So my point is, this first test well, if you will, is really important information gathering that we really couldn't shed any additional light on whether a network energy, larger intended network energy program would work. So we really need to understand that first layer of information, which we'll get from drilling this well and then analyzing the data that we receive.
The plan doesn't show which one is the test well, or are you just going to go for number one? And
Yeah, no,
get it?
we're going to start with number one. That's
Okay.
that I believe is the plan.
And will these lines be directionally bored, or are you going to dig the whole thing out? No, the
Oh
red
no,
lines to the
sorry. That'll be trenched, and we'll be doing.
Trench?
Yeah, that'll be trenched, Fred. To be clear, there is a lot of coordination. I think, as it noted in our text with Kathleen and the rest of Emily and the rest of the town, DPW, to really talk about specifics, how long we intend to take up a certain spot, what are the precautions. There is a footprint involved with this, just the drilling rig, the actual kind of slurry that's created through the drilling process. This team, Spafford and Son in particular, the driller, has a lot of experience with this in urban areas. So, but we also know that we're right next to Otter Creek. So all of these things are going to be taken into consideration. We'll be, as I say, communicating and coordinating with the town.
So the whole road be closed off? Ramp road?
The ramp road would likely be closed, certainly for wells 1 and 2. So we'd see then after that we could then coordinate further and see what's possible. And the other infrastructure after we do the wells will be placed with, we intend to place those with the rest of the construction early next year.
You drill the wells now, but you aren't going to do the lines up to the building until
Yeah,
later. Okay.
yeah.
That's good to know.
You're just doing test well now.
We're going to start, Heather, we're going to start with that first test well, get the information, and then decide, okay, now we're going to proceed with the other 3 wells, immediately thereafter or whatnot.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I-
Gain information and then formulate the next steps.
Sounds like Public Works has reviewed this and they know what you're doing, and that's good.
Yes, although Fred, certainly there's more coordination. This is the first pass, and then Public Works, and we will coordinate the details.
I'll move to authorize the Islay Library project team to conduct an on-site well drilling operation at the Islay Library site.
Seconded. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 I'm going to ask a question. I didn't ask it before the vote because I should chastise.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
All
Chris, how these geothermal systems are measured in tons? Ton of what?
BTUs per hour, essentially. The cooling is the tonnage, right? We're going to, and at this point, Andy, I could not tell you right now what the size of the system is. So I will, qualify it at that point. Next week, I could tell you though.
Okay.
We should have more information on kind of where we are with the system size.
I've taken a year of thermodynamics. I've never heard heat measured in tons before. It's just an engineering approach to HVAC that doesn't mesh with my physics understanding.
Right.
Okay.
We'll have a good conversation with the mechanical engineers and you.
I'll run them down and
Yeah.
trade them lunch or something.
Right.
It's actually the weight of the equipment necessary to
Oh, perfect. Very good.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, okay, well, thank you. Looks like you're good to go.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right.
Very efficient meeting, I must say.
Night, Dana.
Is Danielle with us?
Danielle is with us.
Hello.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi. I don't know if I can turn on my
Would you,
good thing to turn on.
okay, I'm going to promote you to panelist.
Oh, okay. All right, hello.
Hi, Danielle.
I was hoping to be there in person, but my 3rd grader had other plans. It's been a tough week already.
So you said that you wanted to give the board a little update about what you've been doing with the National Opioid Settlement funding.
Yeah. First, I just want to, express gratitude for not just for me, but the board of directors as well as our staff for Middlebury really investing in recovery. I think it's always hard to look past the destruction of substance use and think about like what happens after, and that people do recover and people get better and are able to contribute to our communities in a really valuable way. So it's amazing that we live in a community that really believes in that. And as I'm sure most of you are aware, over the past 2 years since I started, we've been on this quest to create a recovery center that really is consistent with what I think of as recovery, to really take it out of what we see, the old church basement style of recovery and really give people a place they want to be in and they are excited to be at. And we received an earmark in order to renovate. There's the St. Mary's space and our based on just the huge
cost of that project, shipping it to our current location. And then we had issues with our landlord, and again, we're at this place where we have all this money to do renovations and can't move forward. So as a board, we and our staff decided that the best way to move forward and to find a real permanent home for the Turning Point Center and really feel like it's somewhere that these renovations are going to provide value for a long time is to purchase a building. So we are in the process, well, we have a contract to purchase 79 Court Street. The hope is to close on that building on December 1st. And I worked really hard in the last 2 years to make sure we are financially sound and stable and able to do that. But of course, just like any big purchase like that, the upfront cost is pretty substantial. And when I think about what this OPM money is for, putting it towards the acquisition of this property is really the most immediate need. It'll put us directly across from Gather. Often we hear, we send them to you, but they never make it. So we will be right across the street. It brings us a little bit closer to Middlebury. And it just provides more visibility. Right now, often people have no idea where we are. So bringing us out and also we will be able to use those funds to renovate a smaller wedding for 79 Court Street. So that is my request, that we use those funds to put towards that acquisition and really help us to make this a reality and really make a center that speaks to what I think of recovery.
So do we?
You have already entered into an MOU with the latest batch. There has been a little bit more funding that's trickled in, as you saw in your packet. So we'll be doing another MOU, Danielle, and I'll be in touch with you shortly about that. But the latest, you did an approval at your July 27th meeting, I think, for $10,991. And this is what Danielle's talking about using for the purchase and her and Turning Point Center's down payment cost.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
But you bring services to be stable.
Yeah. Great. Great.
Thank you for your work.
One other thing, this is separate from the purchase of our new building, but this is like initial conversations, but we have received a grant to stand up to public health vending machines, so Narcan would be distributed in those. Our hope is to put one in Middlebury and one in Virgins. And now that we are purchasing the property, my hope is that we put it at our new space. But these are initial conversations, and just want to bring that up. And we will be having some public forums and want people to really understand what the use is, and also dispel any kind of concerns that come up. So I'll just keep you informed as that goes forward.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Okay, first, we're at 14. And
That should be the letter.
that's the letter. We'll find the letter here and come back to it. So Ross, ready to come forward, we'll discuss the letter, and I think, I don't know if you want to reiterate what you would. No?
Sure. I wanted to make sure that we were also addressing the fire suppression system in the letter. And I asked Kathleen for a copy of the draft, which I returned to her after she had put the initial packet on the website. And she's like, oh, this looks good. I'll just slap this in as the replacement. And it has the language that I suggested to you sooner. I can appreciate the desire to use stronger language in demanding that the right things be done. I don't know that when you don't have authority, that that's the right way to approach the situation.
I would just say that you want to ask for what you want.
Sure.
So the way it was originally written was, no pesticides with PFAS. Problem is, they don't know what has PFAS or not. And unless they start looking. And so that's really what I think we want. It's not whether they use pesticides or not, it's whether they have these forever chemicals in them. And so something in there may be saying, until they have a high degree of confidence that there is no forever chemicals, they should not use anything. Just something like that, which is not demanding, but it's shown. In my opinion, I grew up, I'm sorry, I'm a Flatlander. I grew up in New York City. I got more of a thicker skin and I just tell it like it is. The other thing, since you're expanding it a little bit, something else to consider is the agricultural use out there. There is manure spread, and I don't know if it's possible, but I think it may be possible that pesticides are used on the feed for the cattle that's getting, and it may have the forever chemicals that's getting through the cow's digestive system and being spread on that land as manure, and that the manure probably should be tested to make sure, just like the pesticide should be tested. I mean, that's the only way to know, is really to test these things, know they're clean before they use them. And that would be, I think, the best ask, because then we're getting to kind of the root of the issue and trying to solve it. And so they can move forward with what they need to do, but we can know that we're doing everything we can to protect the integrity of our water source protection area.
Instead of using the term PFAS, you say we should use persistent chemicals or something like that?
No, the PFAS or forever chemicals, but maybe just point out the different areas of concern that we would like them to address and look into. Because, I'm sure like they also do not want to be in a position where they've contaminated our water supply. I think we have similar goals, and we can point that out and say we want to work with them to make sure that, no activities occur there that could potentially cause problems.
Okay, the latest draft has pesticides, herbicides, and fire suppression practices. And you're proposing that
Maybe agricultural activities or something.
as well as agricultural activities.
My problem there is that when you're talking to the person that talks to the farmer, and figuring out where you're going to grab and test samples there, that it's a more difficult ask, and maybe a step two after you've looked at the things that are in your immediate domain of control.
Well, the Foster Farm currently runs it, and I spoke with George today, and he's the one that suggested. He said, "Look, you should just come out and test it." That's what he said.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he would work with the V-Trans or whoever.
The one thing that I wanted to suggest that we change was the town manager. Just since we know that Kathleen is moving on, I was going to suggest that we please do not hesitate to contact us through the office of the town manager.
Excellent.
With the phone number.
With a phone number. And I'm sorry, Kathleen, if they reach out, I don't know what's going to happen to your email.
Crystal is going to be monitoring.
Okay. Just wondering if we could make that a little more generic
Okay.
for the short term. So that was my suggestion for the letter. And otherwise, I was okay signing it. So. Do we need to have a motion since we pulled it out of?
We do.
Do we want any other change to the language? Are we good approving it? I'm not sure what to make a motion for at the moment.
Right, so Definitely change the contact information for the town manager. And the question is, are we also adding agricultural practices or fertilizer to the list of areas to review for PFAS?
That fertilizer to pesticide or fertilizer.
I think that makes sense, and if we, and we can follow up and say, here's where the fertilizer's coming from, and they're open to testing. I think that if we just add fertilizer, that would be.
Is it, if we had a motion to, with these changes that have been discussed, and first word process to authorize the chair to sign the letter? Or what's the best way to move this forward?
If you just pause a minute after this meeting, I'll run upstairs, make the changes, and then y'all can sign.
So I'll move that we approve the letter to the Vermont Agency of Transportation with changes to add fertilizer in addition to pesticides, herbicides, and fire suppressant, and update the contact information so that it's generic.
Second.
Second, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
I said aye.
Well, thank you all very,
Okay,
very,
yeah.
very much for getting right on this. I think it's a really important issue, and so I appreciate it, all of your
That's
efforts.
what we do. We get it right on. Come on. Okay, next is item number 15, which is
Policy review.
the staff recommendation for policy review committee.
Sure.
David, is this what you were talking to me about a little bit the other day?
Yeah, the other day.
Yeah.
So this comes from just an initial, I think, communication that came through the manager's office and about the interest in exploring something that Montpelier, the city of Montpelier, has established a couple of years back as a broader policy for how the town officials and agency partners interact with and react to encampments on public property, on town property or city property in Montpelier. Obviously, this is a very large issue, and I don't think anybody's suggesting that there's any need to rush through something, but rather this would be starting a discussion using what Montpelier employed a couple of years back as an example, and trying to learn the degree to which it's worked. I think any sort of development of a policy on this topic is going to need to have a lot of input from public safety and many of the partners who've been part of this town's homelessness task force over the last year or so, to try to see whether there is any value in creating such a policy. And that would ultimately obviously come back to you guys for a vote. But it starts, you start with a blank page. And so the idea of assigning it initially to the policy review committee is simply to collect some of the research that would be the basis of the discussion by the larger groups. I think that's sometimes the tricky part, is when you're starting with nothing. You got to start somewhere. So conversations with Montpelier staff, for example, and some of those agencies, I think would be a good way to see its value, and it's also its practical application, right? What's in the policy and what gets used in the field can sometimes vary. So that's the genesis of the request, and I'll stop there.
So the board heard a pretty persuasive piece of input from Heidi Lacy and the others in the coalition about not having a change that would atomize this problem into the town, but rather and not do anything to necessarily increase or invite more, because they were maxed out at in terms of their providing of the kinds of services that they and other emergency services do provide. And that was, it's hard to say, well, gee, you mean you want us to do nothing and let it be the way it is? But I think the board heard that, and we've had other citizens' comments since then about whether the town should do something about it. And we've reflected back on that persuasive argument that she gave. And I guess it would be important to involve those people who are in the forefront of that and the discussion about this.
Yeah, I certainly don't think there's any effort to have it just be narrowly looked at by one group, because obviously we're not the experts in it, and the people who work in this field every day know much more than we do. I think at first glance, just from the initial research, it seems like Montpelier's policy is intended to find at least what looks like a middle ground, to not go one way or the other way too far, but to create some sort of framework that gives some broader guidance for, at least in Montpelier's case, how they are supposed to react. Their policy, and not to get too much into the weeds on it, but it deals partly with abandoned encampments. It deals partly with a general rule and then the exceptions to those rules. Any of those things are going to reflect the mood of the community and the degree and what you want to see people like a public works department or a police department or a manager's office respond in the way the policy tells them to. So, ultimately anything that gets crafted would go through a lot of discussion and review. And like with anything you assign to this committee, the response could be, no, let's not, we don't need it, or it's not needed at this time. We're different from Montpelier, so maybe it's not necessary. But this at least allows to start a discussion.
Well, reading in the agenda notes that it was the manager's office and the police department were proposing this. And since Chief Covey is here, do you want to comment on what has changed, or what should be looked at anew, and what?
So much has changed. We've had a year of experience now with the situation that presented here. So we have much more information than we did. We also were awaiting a Supreme Court ruling, which has since occurred, which has defined, given us some clarity on constitutional issues that we had no clarity on prior. So we know that municipalities can take action. I'm not suggesting what that action should be, but I think with our experiences that we've had for the past year with this U.S. Supreme Court ruling, we are in a position where the town now may want to look at defining town stance. David captures this well. He articulates this perfectly, that this isn't a research piece. Let's see. Just because it works for Montpelier doesn't mean it will work for us, but let's gather their experience, see how we can apply this to our experience. This situation will get worse. It is already worsened this year, last year, and I have no reason to believe it will be better next year. So I think now, with some more experience on our side, now is the time to start looking at this, because this will be a lengthy process.
I am in favor in having the conversation. And is there any other towns in the state that have started this conversation or is it just Montpelier?
So I'm going to pose that question initially to VLCT, and I'm sure with this topic they must be aware.
There must be other,
because I can do the legwork, but it helps if somebody can point to it.
Yeah.
So we'll see whether other examples. Trying to find towns of similar size always helps. Going too big or too small isn't really comparatively useful always. But the more towns that have put some pen to paper and are following a policy, I think it's always helpful to then call them up and see, has this worked? Or have you always? Oftentimes a policy may have the last step's the most severe, but they've never gotten to it. That's the kind of thing you only learn when you pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah. The only other question I have, does it bump anything else from what the policy committee is working on? And is there capacity to add this?
Given the fact that this isn't something at all that is trying to be rushed, I think we can have those thoughtful conversations, and then obviously bring in or meet up with the counter some of the other committees, public health and safety, or to bring in the folks from the homeless task force. The more input you get, the more ideas, the more it gets molded, I think, towards a workable solution.
I think it sounds
so it's
good.
not a rush at all intended.
I was talking with Laura about this last night, and we were at another meeting, but There's a related thing I thought of. There's sometimes the remnants of encampments, the abandoned articles of personal property and so forth. And I think it would be worth, and this isn't necessarily targeted at homeless people, having a policy on the use of public property and highway rights of way for storage of personal property. When things are left or parked or abandoned over a period of time, having a procedure where they can put a sticker on it,
and
take it away, or we're going to,
and that's
the
exactly
town may do that.
one of Montpelier's, it's kind of a three-legged policy, but one of them is exactly that. How do you react when you've identified, when somebody's called in or calls in and says, there's an encampment, please look into it. The city of Montpelier goes and looks into it. And it's pretty logical. It reads a lot like the way a town would handle evidence. You're going to take a picture, you're going to wait a certain period of time, then you're going to come back and you're going to remove the materials and you store them for a period of time. That's the paraphrasing their policy. That's when they've concluded it's abandoned. So that's a piece of what they're dealing with.
I don't know if that would be indirectly discouraging. I think people who are genuinely in transit, homeless, I don't want to take their tent one night or out, but the chairs that accumulate,
And I think
other stuff.
I think that's the knowledge that we would best learn from the people who are working in that field, rather than us trying to pretend to be experts in it. We'll learn
Good.
from it.
Do we need a motion? I'll move that we assign the policy committee to review and research encampment policies in the state of Vermont and report back to us when they have something substantial for discussion.
Second.
Did you want to say, Lori?
We also have Heidi Lacy that has her hand up.
Heidi can go first.
We're gonna take the whole night on something that should be,
It's not gonna-
we're
I'm not gonna-
we're sending something off to a committee to have these discussions. Not supposed to start with a whole select board discussion.
Brian, I actually don't want to start with the full select board discussion. I would just like to thank you for bringing this forward and absolutely would like to participate in the policy discussions going forward, both as an advocate for those that are unhoused, as well as those that support you all in the work that you're doing. So please do include me on future notifications of that. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi.
I'm also not looking to start a whole discussion, Brian. I just want to be included, and I want to say what I just said, which is that you very well reflected, what my concern was, and now my awareness, and I would love to see the Montpelier policy just reviewed. If someone could forward that to me, that would be great.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Izzy seconded the motion.
So, any other comments or questions? The motion is for them to research it and bring it back and work with other
Yep. Other groups, other committees.
parties,
Yep.
committees, interested parties, waiting on the committee, but she's actually on the homelessness task force. That you mentioned. Everybody involved, and then see if there's something that makes sense and bring it back to us.
Alrighty.
No timeline.
With that, all in
just-
favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
I guess it.
It's like the higher
Yes, yeah.
being coming down and
Okay, check warrants.
Yeah, I did the check warrants. And I reviewed them, and they were all in good order, except for the two that the auditors had pulled, that they were reviewing through their process. And I'll move to approve total expenditures in the amount of $678,165.49, consisting of $521,892.17 for accounts payable and $156,273.32 for payroll for the period of August 14th, 2024 through August 27th,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, the thumbs up, I think.
We need our higher being.
Way down the delay.
Aye. Aye.
Well, while you're on there, select board member concerns, what you got, Dan?
My only concern is, this has been a pain to try to, I've had a laundromat at a national park in Canada, and while the two parents were ignoring their children and using their phones, I couldn't get on, so I apologize. But I got 95% of the meeting, so, but I have no other concern.
Well, have a good trip. Ron?
It started out really great, we're having a good time.
Good.
I'm all set, thank you.
Two things. I loved volunteering and seeing a lot of you at the Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival. It was great. It brought a lot of vibrancy to our town. And since this is Kathleen's last select board meeting with us, I just wanted to publicly say thank you.
Thank you.
You may be seated.
Well, I was also going to speak on the same thing, that the film festival is a wonderful thing for the town. I'm curious to know about how many more people it brought to town and how it's growing. And I did ask, just out of curiosity offhand, Lloyd Commissar, what could the town do or should do, that you foresee in the future? I know when we lose a lot of parking this time next year, maybe having a shuttle. It's an off time for the college and the schools, and a parking, we might anticipate that might be something but I'd like to hear more about it from them and continue to support the film festival.
Okay. Heather?
Just quickly, I obviously wanted to thank Kathleen. Her last infrastructure committee meeting was last week, so we recognized her there quickly. So thank you. And then I also wanted to say a thank you to Dan and also Michelle. So please pass it on.
Yes.
It was
Thank you.
wonderful to get together with you all and celebrate Kathleen and have the opportunity to have some social time with you all while we're not here. So, so thank you, Dan and Michelle, for putting that together and the good food. And I just appreciate you making that happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
It was fun, we really enjoyed doing that, so thanks.
All the good stuff's been taken. I'm gonna say something mundane and super boring. I was talking to the auditors at lunchtime, and I'm like, what do you think is the value of this process? And they're like, not really, no other towns do this. And I'm like, I could see when you come on the board, getting a sense of all of the vendors that we use and the amounts of money that you're responsible for in this role. But I don't know that the practice of making sure that each invoice has a GL code, I don't know what it is on it, and was signed by someone, and doing the auditor's work for every check that goes through here is a great use of our time.
So no other towns do a warrant review?
No other towns. Other towns get a list of this much was paid on this date to this vendor, and they ask questions if things seem out of character, but no one that they're aware of in the 12 towns that these auditors work with goes through each check, basically, that is issued by the town.
Oh, in towns that don't have staff, or who approves the expenditures, and it isn't the select board?
Assume that the clerk makes the warrants available and that they approve an amount that they believe is associated with these vendors. Anyway.
Could be why there was so much embezzlement in most towns.
Yeah, that's right. Well, these are usually places where you just got clerk, right? That's your primary person. We have a finance
Except for Middlebury.
We,
I don't know. I'll think about it, I guess.
okay.
I like check warrants, so if you don't
I
wanna do it.
actually like reviewing.
I put my headphones in.
I don't find it an
Listen to
underburden.
my nice calm music.
It's like when you get to that GMP
You know what?
bills, I don't know what to do with them. There's a
know
whole
what?
stack of them.
You know what I find reassuring when I do check warrants is that we have a great staff, right? Like
Yep.
somebody is approving these. I can see that somebody is approving them, and then I can see our finance team's work in reviewing and entering and paying them on time. And I'm just appreciative that things are working and flowing and happening the way they should be in the town. So
Yeah, no, I am super appreciative of that, and I don't need to.
And I have to tell
every
you, yeah, I have to tell you, I don't know that I would look at the warrant report because I know one of us is.
Yeah. No, it
You know?
changes the
Exactly.
expectations.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know, I guess
Yeah.
I'd have to think, anyway.
Okay. Well, I don't expect we'll change anything until our next organizational meeting in March.
I'm continually
I'm just
amazed at what things cost.
Yeah.
But I don't know about it. I'm not in my field.
So if there's anybody left out there watching, we would invite you to join us Thursday at 5 o'clock at the Town Hall Theater to have a formal town farewell to our wonderful town manager, Kathleen Ramsey. And,
Not this Thursday, next Thursday.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Thursday the 5th.
I was gonna say, did I put it on the
No,
wrong
no,
week?
no, yes.
And for the board, I think everybody knows Kathleen is going to stay on a very, very, very limited basis to have signatory authority, and that she will be at the end of the phone or an email to help guide until at least the end of September. But we do need to be thinking about that interim plan, and by that time, we should know how long that will be. Okay? And we have our second round of interviews coming Friday. For that, we have an executive session.
I think you did the gist of executive session right there. So unless there's anything further, if there's anything further on that, but other than that, you're done. You're done. Yeah, if you just wanted to get into the details of that. But if there's no need for that, I think the board knows where we are and.
Just comment on the schedule that was sent around. I'm away the latter part of September and early October.
Schedule that was sent around. You're talking about
The-
for the recruitment?
Yes. When it proceeds to its final rounds, I can participate by Zoom, but I'm after September 6th, excuse me. After September 15th, really, I'm away until October 6th. So the second meeting.
Track for a third round before September
The week of
15th.
September 9th works for me, but not to be here.
We will, just as a matter of course, timing may make it so that we can't all be there.
Yeah,
We will
yeah.
try.
Yeah.
We will try. So I guess if I blew up our executive session.
Well, we can enter into executive session if anyone is interested in discussing the details of what you just said broadly, right?
And I will just act on the matters discussed. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Well done, sir.
All right. It's unanimous.
Enjoy the Maritimes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Yeah, thanks, and I still intend to participate if Kathleen thinks it's okay via Zoom on the interviews. I just have to find a new place 5 days out or a few days out.